Welcome to Sometimes There's Side Eye, a podcast about two friends having real and unfiltered conversations about dogs and people. Listen as we talk about our lives with dogs, training, behavior, share some laughs, and a whole lot of banter. I'm Heather.
And I'm Kristi. This week, we are going to go back to the reason we started the podcast. So, if you listen to our introduction, we talked about how Heather and I were messaging back and forth these really long messages about how we felt about dog training and basically all things dogs. So, this week, I'm going to invite you into the
Into
crazy
our
world of
brains.
Kristi's head. So you can see what Heather has to deal with.
No, because I think it's really interesting. And this is how this all began.
So I will read just exactly what I sent to Heather and her response because it's perfect. I had gone out to lunch with my parents and I sent Heather a message afterwards that said, saw a Doberman walking today in downtown Chandler. My brother commented, that dog is locked in, and hinted what a well-trained dog it was. I said, yeah, she has a pocket full of treats. Then I had so many conflicting feelings. First, I was impressed with the dog's level of engagement. Then I was so happy she was using positive reinforcement to get such great results. I couldn't help but think what a great example she was for positive reinforcement training and how great it was for others to hopefully see. Then I was a little sad that the dog's whole walk was prancing next to the owner and not doing dog things like sniffing or even really looking around. Also, when we let dogs be dogs, no one really thinks, what a well trained dog. And that kind of sucks too. And then my brother said, oh, that makes sense when he realized she was treating the heel. I felt really bummed that people think treats are cheating, but not punishment. Although in some circles, I know the opposite is true. I just think that my brother is the average pet owner. I just had so many feelings pile up so quickly. And Heather's response was, holy shit, so much to unpack. I shall be back.
And then I never came back.
And then she said, maybe we should talk about this on the podcast.
Yeah, because I think it's a perfect thing to unpack. Okay, let's start. First,
Yeah.
I have a
And
question.
sure.
Yes, go.
I was going to caveat this by I was watching from across the street. This was very limited, like no interaction between me and the owner.
Mhm.
I have no idea what her
You
training
don't know
regimen
her.
or yeah, I don't know her. I maybe she just spent 15 minutes letting the dog sniff and then this was the last 15 minutes of their walk or
Mhm,
whatever. I have no idea. These were just all my random thoughts piled into one. So
mhm.
let's just be clear before people are like, "But you don't know." I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
But it's kind of the point.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
really is kind of the point, which we'll come back to that. But first, I have a question. Did you actually
Sure.
see how did you know she had a pocket full of treats?
The dog was so locked in on her pocket and
Uh-huh,
then I saw her hand reach in and feed the dog.
to that
And so
pocket.
because I was watching to see why the dog was so locked in, and
Yeah.
if it was just training or if she had, like, a choke collar I couldn't see from
Mm,
across the street. So I was talking to my brother, but keeping an eye on them,
yeah.
and I did see her reach into her pocket and just, like, make a little C with her hand
Mm.
and scoop out treats.
Mm, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was just curious because it sounds to me like he was in a formal heel. So, like a
Mhm.
formal obedience heel. And so that's why I wanted to ask you, how did you know that she had treats? Because a lot of people will teach a formal heel where that nose is right up in there and it
Mhm.
could look like it was trained there because there was
Mhm.
food. So that was my first thing. That was
And I
my
did see
first.
her
Yeah.
treat several times, which made me happy. Like,
Yeah.
it did make me happy she was paying her dog for a job well done.
Mhm.
And one thing I didn't mention, they also had on their walk with them it was 2 females with 2 dogs.
Oh.
So the Doberman was the only one I really focused in on. The Labradoodle was just doing Labradoodle things.
Doodling away.
I mean, it was having a great time as
It
a
was
dog, but it was
doodling.
not locked into any specific thing. If there were butterflies, it was chasing those.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it was not an ill-behaved dog. It
Yeah.
wasn't pulling on leash. It was just
It was dogging.
it was just dogging, fully
Yeah.
dogging.
Okay. So why I say that's the whole point is we make such and I do it myself
Mhm.
all day long. We make such snap judgments about what we see, and we
Yeah,
have zero context about
exactly.
what is actually going on. And so it made me think about how someone would see you walking Lucy in a prong collar
Mhm,
and make a judgment about you
mhm.
when in real and they might say to you, "Oh, a harness would be so much nicer." And you're like,
Yes,
"Actually, the harness
actually.
to that dog was
Mhm,
aversive." And
mhm,
so that in my mind, when you wrote this whole thing to
mhm.
me and I read it all, I was like, "Oh my god, I just ping-ponged inside of Christy's brain." But
Yeah,
also,
all over.
I was like, I do this myself all the time. And
Mhm.
then I do what you did, which is
Yeah.
backtrack and be like, do I actually know? Maybe they were over, maybe they just came back from like a 20-mile hike. Or
Yeah.
maybe that dog just did scent work for 20 minutes at the other side of the location. And now
Mhm.
she's working healing. Or maybe, there's all these like different maybes that come into my mind.
Mhm.
And it made me come back to our training episode
Yeah.
and how we took the stance of you cannot make assumptions about someone outside of abuse. Abuse is always abuse, right? We
Yes.
talked about that. But when it comes to someone's choice for tools and for how they interact with their dog and how
Mhm.
they're asking their dog, like how they're expecting their dog to behave, we cannot make judgments. We
Right.
can't. There's so many times where we can look and we've all done it. I've been out somewhere and Tiago is generally a well-behaved dog at this point. He's, almost
Yeah.
7 years old. But could he have an outburst where he has big feelings and just like at
Yeah.
somebody? 100% that could happen. And then you're the person that's standing there going, he's never like that. He's always perfect. La, la, la." You know what I mean?
Like, one phrase every dog owner has said in their life is, "They've never done that
They've
before."
never done that before. Yeah.
And what is that podcast we listened to, where they said, "And there they go, never
Never,
never nevering,"
nevering
what
like
they
they've never nevered before.
never so true.
It's so true. But like we're on the flip side of it and we're
Mhm,
the ones who are like, please don't judge me, please don't judge me, please don't judge me. Please don't
mhm.
judge my dog. And then here we over are going through this whole scenario in
Yeah.
our head,
Mhm.
running down through all the things. And I just sit back and I'm like, can we all just be?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
And I don't think it's wrong to make observations,
no.
but I also think, like, you should sit with those observations too,
Hmm.
which is why I sent it all in writing to Heather,
Hmm.
was I had so many feelings and they
Hmm.
all felt very conflicting to
Hmm.
me
Hmm.
within my own brain. And so then I needed to get them out. And then once I wrote them out, I was like, "Oh, then I can kind of sit with them a little bit better and like
Hmm.
really dive down a little bit in each of those areas." And it believe me, it becomes not at all about that woman and her Doberman.
Yeah.
It becomes all about myself and my own views on dog training and life and my
And how
experiences with
you
my own
live
dog.
with your dog? Yeah,
Yes.
that was the other part of it that I was
Yeah.
like, I could see your life with Lucy wrapped up in all your observations and your
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Absolutely. And I had to think too, like after I had sent it to you and sat with it for a while, I I couldn't tell if the dog was old or young from where I was standing, but I had to think back when Lucy was young, we didn't do a lot of fun things. Like she couldn't be on a long line because she couldn't make good decisions
Mhm.
on anything
She wasn't
longer than
ready.
4. She was restricted to a 4-foot leash because that's the maximum she could have without making bad decisions.
Yep. Yep.
And and how kinda sad if you think about where she was towards the end of life where she could have a
So
50-foot
much
lead. I
freedom.
own a 50-foot lead.
Mhm.
And to have such a restricted life to just this wide open life, I can't judge everybody based on where Lucy ended,
Mhm.
that's That's crazy.
That's
That took
hard though.
that took a lot of work
Yeah.
to get
Oh,
there,
believe me,
and
I am living it right now.
and it turns out when dogs get older, they, like, are a little less,
They do
you
less,
know,
yeah, yeah, shitty
they make better
things.
decisions,
Yeah,
hopefully.
yeah. I have no idea where I heard it, but I heard it somewhere this week, and someone either I read it or it was on a podcast, and someone said, "A well-trained dog is just a happier dog." Sit with it. No,
Mm,
seriously, because a dog who has a whole lot of skills
mhm.
usually does get more freedom. And if you come on. Oh, she's making a face at me,
I
everybody.
disagree. I
Why?
disagree because I know so many not so many. I know a solid amount of people who have well-trained dogs, but not to give them more freedom to control their
Mm,
dog
I guess it's
to
how
fit
you use
into
it.
their life. Yeah, and that's what yes, well-trained
How you
dogs who
use
are
it.
allowed freedom, 100%, I think they're
Well, I guess
happier
that was
dogs.
the statement. A well-trained dog, it gives them a better life because you give them more freedom because
Yes, but there's a
which
lot of owners who don't give that
yeah.
freedom
Well,
with
that's a
training.
whole 'nother bag.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, but I
yeah.
did that's why
But
that statement was like, "Ugh, I
yeah,
don't totally
yeah,
agree."
fair. Tiago gets so much allowance in his life, just like
Yeah.
Lucy, because but part of okay, so it's not just that the dog behaves, right? Training is so much bigger than that. It's that you have a trust and an understanding and a communication with that dog because when you're training, you're building this relationship. And so you know so much better how a dog is going to respond in a situation, and it allows you to have more comfort and more trust in them to then afford them more freedom.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
definitely think that's how we
yeah,
define training,
yeah,
the 2 of us, yeah.
yeah.
And
But
probably the people listening too.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe in that situation, I'm just thinking about all the things like, for all we know, that Doberman 6 months ago was highly dog reactive and could have never walked in that situation. And now that
Yeah, I have no
person
idea.
is where they are and they just found positive reinforcement. I mean, like, there's a million things that could have been
I
happening
mean,
there.
she was really smooth with her
Oh,
treat,
so she was
so I'm
good.
gonna say she didn't
She's
just
skilled.
just go
Who was
she
she?
was
Why didn't
skilled.
you stop her and be like, who are you?
I honestly thought about it, but my brother and I were still in a conversation,
Oh, yeah.
but I legitimately was like, "It's gonna be so weird, but I want to stop her and
So,
ask her about her dog and her training and
you
all
know
the
what's
things."
I will say, not necessarily in that situation, but when I am out and I see a team that really just is just doing a great job, I am more apt to say, "Wow, nice job." But then that
Mhm,
goes back to the end of part of your thing because we're rewarding those people for this perfectly trained dog.
mhm.
And I feel it when people say it to me with Tiago. They're like, wow, like that's a really well trained dog. But is he dogging? I mean, I think
Sometimes,
it
yeah,
depends on the
yeah.
dog because for Tiago, running through obedience drills at Home Depot and showing off,
Mhm,
he's dogging, man. He loves it.
mhm,
He really is just with me and he's having a good time and he loves
mhm.
that shit. But he also gets to just do during his little time at Home
Yeah,
Depot too. So I guess really it depends on the individual dog, which goes back to the whole thing.
and there are times when your dog should be in a heel or should
Yeah.
be I mean, Lucy, I like the goofy, I like her dogging, but when we went to Home Depot, she was expected not to pull on leash, she was
Yeah.
expected to be right next to me, and
Yeah.
when I stopped, she was expected to sit and stay there,
Mhm.
and then when I started walking, she would continue walking,
Mhm.
because that's what you need in that environment
Mhm.
too.
Yeah, especially
Like,
in an
there are
environment where not everybody wants to have a dog there.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, especially in an environment not everyone wants a dog, and not everyone wants a pit bull or a
Yeah.
Rottweiler coming up to them,
Yeah.
you know?
That's true. Mm,
One thought I had is I haven't owned working breeds.
yeah.
Dobermans are working breeds, and so
Yeah.
I did think, there's dogs that just thrive to work, just love working, and need that to enjoy being a dog. That is part of who they are.
Mhm.
And and so I did think, well, maybe she's providing something that that dog absolutely needs,
And
and it is
enjoys.
totally yeah, and it's better than letting it go on a safari because it loves that structure and being right with its owner and, those things. So I did have that thought too.
Which is a good thought.
So, yeah. So also our view is very limited. Everybody's view. I'm just saying, not like Heather and I, but just human beings' views are very limited. And we are often, how do I say it? Our scope is limited to what we know.
Yeah.
And guess what? I haven't owned 200 breeds of dogs. I've owned two. I've
Mhm.
had experiences with like a dozen different dog breeds, but I mean, a dozen out of
However
hundreds.
many. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really limited. And so I don't think when we give advice or think through like or see things and make judgments, we can't always do that because we don't have that experience with that breed or
Yeah.
that even within the breeds, there's these specific
Mhm.
dogs are individuals. So that kind of
Mhm.
see spiral. I
Mhm.
spiral.
Yeah, it is interesting too because when somebody asks me something, so recently a friend was thinking about adding a puppy
Mm,
and they have a adolescent dog at home and that's a female. And they were talking about, okay, if we add a puppy, boy, girl, blah, blah, blah. And they were asking my opinion. And my go to immediately was, well, I would tend towards a boy. And, there's all those myths out there and what's really proven and what's not. I don't know that there's really scientific evidence that
yeah,
boys don't get along with boys, girls don't get along, same sex aggression,
mhm,
all of that. But then within that, there's, like, the breed side of it as well to be
mhm,
added in. But when I answered, I said, "I would tend to get a boy because you're also adding a dog into, like, the same age bracket. You have an adolescent and you're adding a puppy, and I wouldn't want 2 girls that close together in the same breed, in the same household." And then I prefaced that with, but I have had bad experiences living that. So I am colored that way. I
right.
have lived through bitch aggression that was kill
Mhm.
on sight. I can't
Yes.
look at that and
Mhm.
not have that bias in my mind. And
Mm.
even sitting there being aware of the bias, I can't
Yes.
undo it. It's like,
Right.
you know,
It's there. Yeah.
it's there. So I think that
And
like
it's
we
rooted in something real.
really emotional, really
Yeah.
traumatic, really difficult. It's woven into the fabric of who I am. It affected my
Right.
family deeply. So I think, there's that element also of all our own experiences and we
Mhm.
have to, I don't know where I was going with that, but we have to keep that in mind when we're looking and we're sort of seeing someone on the street with their dog, not only do we not know what they're doing and
Mhm.
why,
Yeah.
we are colored in our judgments based
Mhm.
on our experiences.
Exactly.
So I think that's part of it too. Oh, I know. I'm going to bring it all back. And it makes me think about the number one episode that people talk to us about is the shame episode,
Yeah.
I feel
Mhm.
like.
Yeah.
And it brings it all back to that whole shame thing.
Right.
And I kind of think that's like when you wrote that to me, I took the tone of you almost had all these feelings and then you're like, I don't want to judge them. It
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
this, ooh,
Yeah. Because I had all the thoughts and then I was like, "Oh, I'm being
yeah,
judgy." Ugh.
yeah. But you don't want to, you've experienced that and you don't want to like
Yeah.
put that on anybody else ever.
Right.
I think it's just everybody's on this deeply personal journey
Right.
with each individual dog.
Mhm. And one thing I want to go back to a little bit is just even like that first statement of she's using positive reinforcement. And I was so happy for her to be an example to
Yeah.
others. But you guys, it's so tough to live your life to be an example to others. Yes,
Yes.
we should all be doing our best. Yes, we should all be kind to your dogs. Be the best dog owner you can be. But also like it's okay that if not everybody agrees that you're
Mhm.
doing the best job you could. They don't know your journey. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And so I was conflicted even in that feeling of
Even you were conflicted about having positive feelings about being positive. Kristi, I
I
love
was
you for that.
conflicted in that. Like, I was like, "Oh, she's such a good example for positive reinforcement." Because what do people say? Like, the best way to prove positive
Shut up and show
reinforcement.
off.
Yeah, show off your
Yep.
well-trained
Shut up
dog.
and show off.
But you know what? That's kind of
It's a lot of
that's a
pressure.
That's a lot of pressure, and not pressure that everyone needs to buy into.
Mhm.
I mean, not every dog needs to be the example for everyone to see.
Mhm.
Maybe
And
that's just not.
not every dog can, or every owner.
No,
They don't even
no,
have the spoons to be able to do that.
no. Yeah. I mean, this lady was clearly smooth with her transitions. She clearly had some work in. And I have to say, impressive behavior is impressive, regardless of how you get there. When a
Yeah.
dog is well trained, it's impressive.
Yeah.
And whatever tools you use to get there, I mean, clearly not abuse, but a well-trained dog is a
Mhm.
well-trained dog, and that is an impressive thing. And I did, oh, for half a second, I'm gonna be really vulnerable here. And for half a second, I did think she's treating, like meh.
I got
And I
that
had to
impression
I had to check that because then I felt super guilty about that too,
because
because
you said
I
to
mean, I was
your brother was impressed, and then you were like, "Yeah, she's got a pocket full of treats."
she's got a pocket full of treats. Well,
Yeah, like she was
and
cheating.
like she was cheating. And I think part of it is everybody's goal is to have these check-ins from their dog. Generally, I mean, clearly not everybody, but generally people want these check-ins from their dog while
Mhm.
they're on walks, and they just want it to occur naturally because your dog just loves you so
Uh-huh.
much. That's not really how it works. I mean, some breeds, yeah, that works. But a lot of times it's going to take either an aversive or positive reinforcement to get those check-ins.
Mhm.
And you're gonna have to choose which one, you
Mhm.
know? And so it's not cheating to use a tool to
Mhm.
get a check-in. It doesn't naturally always occur.
Do you do you feel like, because I feel like you are on a journey of
Mhm,
being very pro balance
mhm,
training to rounding the corner to
mhm,
very pro positive reinforcement, not
mhm.
anti-prong, but right.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is going to be really tough conjecture, but
Mm.
do you think if you had started on the road of positive reinforcement that you would have felt like she was cheating, had that just that just teeny tiny little thought like, she's cheating?
First of all, I checked that thought really quick. It
Yeah.
was
No, no, no.
literally
I
like
mean, yeah.
a bird
It's
flew
just
over my head. That was how quick
it
the
was
thought was.
like,
But yeah. But no, I don't think I would have had that thought because that is a learning pattern, right? You're
mhm.
cheating if you have treats, and I've
All
never felt like
positive
a treat.
reinforcement trainers do is throw cookies. Yeah.
Yes,
It comes from
and
that.
I 100% never believed that. Like, I always believed in regardless of who I went to for a trainer, I always believed you should give treats. Your
Mhm.
dog works for you,
Well,
they should
yeah.
get paid. End of story. I 100% believe that always. But yeah, I don't think I probably would have had that. Although I think I still would have seen that the dog was locked into the pocket where the treats were.
Mhm. Mhm. I think that's a key part of it because
Mhm,
to me, so I actually would have had the same thought as you, I think, because of the pocket thing.
mhm,
From the standpoint of is the dog actually engaging with you, or is the dog
Mhm,
engaging because you have food there? Like, could the dog
mhm.
engage with you sans food, you know?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's none of our fucking business.
No, no, and who cares? Maybe she's just training her dog
Does it
to have
matter?
its
Yeah.
nose right there, and then if that's what she wants, then
Mhm.
that's a fantastic way to get that
Mhm.
behavior. Like,
Mhm.
good on her for
Mhm.
thinking
Money in
that
the
through and
bank.
being like,
Yeah.
I want the nose on the pocket when I walk, and this is how we're gonna teach it."
Mhm.
Like, well, brilliant, girl, like, get
Yeah.
it.
I think if we could all, us included,
Yeah.
get ourselves to the place of you do you, I do me, so much of
Mhm,
the shame
mhm,
would fall away.
mhm,
And I think that the place to get there or to start getting there is for you to have emotion dumps and thought dumps like you
mhm,
did because you had rattled all of these things off. And this is why I wanted to talk about it because it's very honest of you to like
yeah,
share all of that and us to sort of work through it. And I think it's important because it's like, well, to reprogram all of that and to sit
yeah,
back and be able to work through it and process it the next time you see it or see
mhm,
something, you are less likely to be like, well, she's cheating with treats, or
mhm,
even that to even cross your mind. It's more
mhm,
like you're reprogramming that whole train of thought and just being like, oh, look at that dog. Wow, they're really tuned in. Or
yeah,
isn't it great to see a dog and an owner out together? And it's just
yeah,
that simple. There is
yeah,
no like, blah, 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 you know?
yeah. Yeah, and I do think one way to get there too is genuine curiosity,
Yeah.
and I was genuinely curious about so many things, and then, of
Hmm.
course, I didn't go and talk to her. Yeah, there were lots of reasons to not go and talk to her. 1, I'm an awkward human being, but 2, I was doing other things,
With a
and she
podcast.
was
It's
she
fine.
was doing other things, yeah.
Yeah. I would have talked to
But
her. I would have gone
yeah,
across the street and been like,
oh
"Excuse
my gosh.
me."
I even thought that if Heather was here, we would be talking to that woman right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. But, I mean, I think too, if we're not having those thoughts, then
Mhm,
maybe we can also come from a place that other people aren't having those thoughts. And we
yeah.
can just be one with our dog and be on
Yeah.
our journey and feel more free to, oh, we made a mistake, or oh, that didn't work the way I planned,
Mhm,
or oh, I dropped a treat, or oh, this,
mhm,
or and my mechanics were off. I've noticed lately, sort of on that on my Instagram, it seems like I'm seeing a bit more of trainers who are showing the messy.
mhm.
And I'm liking that because it's like a 90-second reel of perfect healing. No, no, no. I want to see all the mess that went along with that because
Yeah,
I I can give you a 90-second clip where Tiago is absolute perfection, but there's like 17 minutes of all this messy, not because he's messy,
right,
but because I'm messy.
right.
And
Yeah,
so I'm liking seeing the
mhm,
foibles and the mess ups and the drop treats and the this and the that. And maybe that goes towards all of us just being able to be like, I'm just out with my dog, what happens, and
yeah,
I'm on this journey with just this dog.
yeah, and I will say, like, when I'm out in real life and I see someone training with their dog and maybe everything goes haywire, like, it is
Yeah.
clear that things did not work the way they were supposed to, it makes me smile because oftentimes what you see is the owner stop and, like, reconsider and, like, try something else, or just stop and, like, play with their dog or love their dog, and that makes me happy to see that you don't have to be perfect, you're just
Yeah.
out with your dog and you're just doing the best you can.
Yeah.
I also think had I come from a different background, other than training, beyond training, if I came from a show or an obedience or sport background, I
Mhm.
think my thought process and feelings probably would have been really different
Mm.
about that dog as well.
How so?
Um, because For me, okay. When Heather and I did rally together, we had a variety of people in our class. Some were very serious. Meanwhile, my dog jumped a fence to get to me and was like a fuzzy potato running across the room. And I just laughed and was like, my dog, is she crazy? Oh, well. She knocked down signs. I thought it was funny. I'm like, well, clearly I messed up. Oh, well. Not everyone in the class. I mean, they
Mhm.
thought that was funny for Lucy to do.
Yeah.
They did not feel that was funny for their own dog to do.
You know what's funny about that? If
Uh-huh.
if Tiago did it, I would have a different feeling than if Tater did it.
Yeah.
Like, my expectation of Tiago is different. That well, I have
Mhm.
no expectations for Tater, so there you go. But
So funny because he is like not a bad dog, guys. He's such a
no,
good boy.
no, I do say I am not a good enough trainer for Tater. Somebody could take that dog and put, like, obedience and rally titles on him, like, he is capable, it's just not me. But, yeah, I do understand where you're coming from, and I feel like at this stage in my life, I'm in the middle. Do
Yeah.
you think?
I I feel like I'm also in the middle in a lot of things, and maybe not, like, shows and stuff, I'm still on the, like,
Yeah.
own your pet and let it do
Loosey-goosey.
whatever it like yeah, let it do whatever's fun, and then, like, that way you guys have fun core memories together.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I mean, even in training, I think I told you, what was it, like, a month or 2 ago, that I'm not just positive reinforcement only, and I'm not anti-balance training, but man, I just wish everyone would be nicer to their dogs.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Word.
that's my wish. Everybody just be nice to your dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes me, like, a little yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Their lives are so short. That's kinda taking,
Yeah.
like, a turn away from but not. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think
So
that
that's
that
where I'm at
woman was
now.
being nice to her dog?
I do. I don't think
Yeah.
I think she's probably an excellent dog owner.
Mhm.
She seemed kind and gentle
Mhm.
and her dog was engaged. Her dog was outside. It was in the
Yeah.
fresh air. She's doing so many things right.
Do
Like
you
probably all the things right.
do you think the doodle owner was being nice to their dog?
Yeah. That
And
doodle was having a grand
the
time.
doodle was doodling.
The doodle was not even on my radar. It was so well behaved, it was not on my radar. Like, but it
But
because it was
it's
just being a dog.
but it is part of it. Like, you saw
Yeah.
2 completely different pictures, and both
Mhm,
of them,
mhm.
it goes back to, like, we talk about that relationship and seeing that relationship, and that's for me, that's all I wanna see.
Yes.
I just
Yeah,
wanna
yeah.
see a dog with an owner where I'm like, "Look at that relationship."
Mhm,
I guess that's why I'm middle of the road at this point, because I don't
mhm,
really care how they get there.
mhm,
I mean, I don't.
mhm.
If walking Lucy on a prong collar meant that you guys had a beautiful relationship because that gave
Yeah,
her so much more of a life, I
mhm.
am here for it. If,
Right.
walking Tater on a harness because that's what is most comfortable for him and that gives
Yeah,
him freedom, I am here for it. Like, I really want that relationship
yeah.
to be evident.
Mhm.
And I want people to give themselves a break.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's part of what I wanted too. I don't want people to feel like they have to be
Anything.
the face of
Yeah.
positive reinforcement or the face of anything.
Mhm.
Like, just be able to
Just
enjoy
live
your
in the
dog.
moment with your dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're not worried about anything else. And
Yeah.
if we're, when we're looking at that team, there's no need to judge anything or have any moments
Mm-mm.
or anything. You can just have the simple thought of look at that beautiful relationship and
Right.
that's it. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but my brain works the way it
Well, I
works.
know it does.
There's gonna be
I
ping
know.
pongs in there.
I mean,
Like, pew,
like, really, if you didn't have ping pongs, like, what would we talk about?
pew. What we talk about. Oh,
Did we hit all your notes on all your
Yeah, we
feelings?
did.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. Is this gonna be our shortest episode ever?
Yeah, let's give the people some time back. If you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe, rate, and share us wherever you get your podcasts. Also, come on over to Instagram and engage with us at Sometimes There's Side Eye.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.